Where'd you guys have to drive from?
Just Lincoln. Elmira, Lincoln.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Not bad weather yet.
I just heard it.
Yeah, right.
Just cold. Lincoln Public Schools is off tomorrow.
Oh, we're falling fast. It sounds like we're leaning toward 2 hour late start.
Negative what?
That's the chat going on as we speak.
No, I was gonna say, I
Within
was
the
on my
last
way
5-10
in.
minutes, that's been kind of the consensus. You
And I
know how
just-
that goes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What's, is Mike in that chat?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Mike just.
It is 6 o'clock, everybody. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. May I have a motion to declare an open meeting?
I'll make a motion to declare an open meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Hope, second by Hannah. Where are you on here, Hannah? There you are. Hannah?
Yes.
Bobby is absent. Hope?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jason? Yes. We are in an open meeting. We welcome our visitors tonight. As per the law, the Board of Education does adhere to the Open Meeting Act. A copy of that act is posted to the wall to my right. This meeting has properly been advertised according to policy and the Nebraska's Opens Meeting Act. We have our consent agenda. It's not listed on there, but I'll go ahead and open up the public comment. At this time, we'll open up the floor. As per board policy, we're allowed for 5 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 30 minutes. So if anybody would like to say anything, they could be assigned in at the front. If not, then we'll go ahead and go on with this meeting. All right, we'll go ahead and conduct our old business, which is to have a work session with NERCSA, starting our superintendent search.
Okay, first of all, again, Rob, Fred, try to remember your names as we go around. And there's a ton of people here. Good to see you all. Didn't make enough copies for everyone, but first of all, we thank you for selecting NERCSA. We will try our best to have the super quality of search for you, and hopefully we'll have a lot of good candidates for you to select from. No guarantees, but we always say, hey, if you can get that one perfect match, that's what we're looking for you. So we're gonna do quite a few things tonight. The search usually takes around 5 weeks. I think that's sort of how we penciled it out. We'll talk about that tonight. But as far as the agenda for what we're going to talk about, it just gives you an idea. The initial planning meeting is tonight. We cover a ton of things, and we'll go over those things one by one. And then during the meeting, we'll ask you about what would you like the search to look like as far as including faculty, staff, including community, including board, including anyone else in that process. The profile meetings, we're really doing with the board profile tonight, finding out what you think is fantastic about your district, finding out what you think are maybe some critical issues that might need to be addressed by the next superintendent, and then finding out timelines and what you'd like to see in the search. So selection of finalists, pre-interview meetings, we've tentatively scheduled these things so we can talk about dates for February 25. And then we would propose that the interview day or days would be around the 1st of March. So if it's Saturday, if you want to do everything on one day, that's Saturday, March 1. And then if you don't, you want to have evening meetings, that would be March, hopefully 3 and 4. I think I have a conflict later on in that week, and it's best to get them done as soon as you can anyway, because we're pushing the timeline, okay? And then we'll meet with the board and committees. That final questions that you want to ask will help you design those questions, help you have all the copies ready, and make sure that we're there on one day or both days that you do your interviews. So that's something we pride ourselves in. We don't have anything to do with a say in who you hire for a superintendent, but we want to make that day a perfect day for you and with no stress, and us just doing the background information work. So, any questions about that before we get started? Okay, so the second page of this talks about faculty and staff committees for engagement. Is that you?
That's me.
That's you?
That's me.
All right.
So, yeah, again, Rob Hanger, nice to meet you, good to see you again. And we are so very glad to be here and have the opportunity to work with you. So we're really looking forward to this, getting to know each of you just a little bit better. So as Fred alluded to, lots of choices to be made, tonight to kind of set the parameters of various aspects of the search. And one of those is how you would like, if you would like, to engage your staff and community. Okay, so that's kind of what we want to talk a little bit about right now. So again, all of these decisions in the end will be up to the board. We'll probably say that 50 times over the next few weeks, but no matter how much or what type of input you seek in the end, as we work with those groups, we always tell them, and we tell them repeatedly, that the decision will be made by the Board of Education. So it is the most important decision that you probably will be making here, obviously in the next 12 months. So there's a variety of ways that you can engage those different stakeholder groups if you choose to do so. So when we talk about engagement, we're talking about if whatever groups you bring on board and decide to utilize, we will be working with them in a similar fashion that we are working with you. So we'll be taking a look through community meetings with them. I call them community meetings, staff meetings, and then also some survey work with them. So that the information that we gather from them will first of all be a part of the board profile, the Pawnee City profile packet. So we'll be working with them and asking them basically the same 3 questions that we're asking you. And we'll be collecting that data, providing that back to you as a board. And then also, just as importantly, we'll be breaking that data down and providing it to each of the candidates as well. So they'll have a very good understanding, and what you'll find is that the candidates will work hard to do their homework. They'll have a very good understanding of what you are and what each aspects of those groups, what are they looking for in the next educational leader. So that's what you derive, I think, from having that, plus the buy-in. We talked a little bit about buy-in from the community, buy-in from the staff for both you and the next superintendent. Ways to do that. So the most common method that we have utilized is to provide you with multiple perspectives from a faculty staff committee and a community committee. So they're designed to advise you, but not to make that decision. We have also advocated for sometimes the use of hosts to do community tours. Oftentimes, when we look at how the interview day breaks out, there'll be a rotation throughout the day, either format that you choose, multiple nights or one day. And it's really important to bring those candidates in. So they're selling themselves to you, and part of the package is you're selling yourself, to those candidates as well. A community tour is a really nice way to get that started. It's a good way to start the day. It's a good way to incorporate that and get them involved. So those people that you choose to do that, it could be members of your administrative team. It could also be some community members, some stakeholders in the community, a real estate individual, somebody that is familiar with the community and all of the various aspects that you might use. We also advocate for the use of students. It's an opportunity for you to kind of showcase that obviously the most important people in your district. And sometimes they have chosen to help us guide prospective candidates to homerooms, then guide them to interview rooms throughout the interview day and the interview process. So they get a chance to meet and greet as well. People have used any number of different kinds of student organizations like Student Council, FFA, all different kinds of choices. We usually say, about 6 or so students. Sometimes we rotate, some in the morning, some in the afternoon. But that's another way to involve them. They're not involved in the actual interview, but just sort of serving as guides and ambassadors throughout the day. So that's a good possibility as well. So as far as selecting committees, if you choose to do that, the process for doing so is that we want to find something that is reflective of the community's demographic and something that reflects the staff demographics as well. So in terms of selecting the faculty or staff advisory committee, we have done this a number of different ways. Sometimes the board has selected these individuals, and sometimes the administrative team has selected these individuals. And so it just depends on the number of administrators that you have and how you would like to do that. We would typically suggest that you have 3 secondary staff members, 3 elementary staff members, and then 3, we would call them like at-large staff members. So sometimes we say select those 3 at-large staff members from your bargaining unit. Maybe that representative could provide 3 members. Sometimes boards just say, listen, Rob, we're going to just pick the 9 members and kind of break it down evenly that we would like to select. Then also 6 classified staff members, up to 6 classified staff members. So that gets you to 12 to 15 committee members of a faculty staff group. Again, they can be nominated in any way that you choose. So that could be one group, one subset. The other would be community members, and we do specifically ask board members to work with Jason and to nominate faculty members, community members, that stakeholders that you feel would represent the district well in an interview process, and that you would like to involve in terms of gaining the buy-in from that particular group. So when we talk about how many of those, we're looking for a committee of 12 to 15, again, community members. We typically ask the board, to nominate those. Each board member, in this case, if it's a 6-member board, would normally nominate 2 and then an alternate, so that we can come up with that 12 to 15 person group. One thing about the invitation, so that Fred and I will stress, if you invite these folks, we do stress that they do need to be there for the entire interview day, and they do need to be there with a few exceptions, for the meetings that Fred and I will be holding with them, where we develop their profile and then also walk them through their pre-interview meeting and develop their candidate questions. And so those are really important meetings. So if you talk to those individuals, if you decide to include them, then it's really important that all of us stress we do need you there for the whole process. So that's why we'll get to that timeline so we can share that with them right away. So we talked a little bit about the tours, and we talked about how to engage with students. And so I guess at this point, I would just kind of like to see what your thoughts are as far as community engagement. Do you have a strong feeling one way or the other about any or both of those groups?
I think it'd be nice to include them both.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Sounds like you're very much in favor of it, so I guess the next step would be to have you have an assignment that you get to us by the end of, let's say, next week. Doesn't have to be right away, because we're going to delay putting those groups together. But we need some names and email addresses, and if you want, we can also get their hard addresses to send them something, an invitation. We will make the invitation letter. Each board member should select 2 to 3, so that community members, we would have community members, business people, we have a good cross-section of your district, and each of you could have 2 of your people on there, and then do, as Rob said, do an alternate. So if we have some duplicates, we have enough to make the 12 to 15. So let's look at the calendar, it's the 20th today. Before our next meeting, which may or may not be, depending on if you, where did my calendar go?
Usually we're looking at the 13th for profile meetings.
Yeah, the 13th. So we really need to probably have those names by a couple of weeks for sure, so we can send them the invitation. When you ask the people to be a part of the group, you need to ask about dates after we set those dates up tonight. Are you available on these dates? Can you commit to a committee meeting, date 1, date 2, and the interviews? If they can't be all 3, sometimes they can miss maybe one of the first 2, but they must be there for the interview day all day. If you take 2 days, all 2 days. So the date, Rob, was what on?
It looks like we would be returning February 13th.
Okay.
So you want the names by,
Well, let's say February 1st. Would that be, what day is February 1st?
That's a Saturday.
Or the end of January, which is only a week or so. So Jason, are you going to be then the person that they send their names to? So you could look at that and say, okay, it looks like 3 people suggested the same person. We need to maybe select one of the alternates for those. And they send you that information,
They can send me in, yeah.
okay? So let's say the 31st of January then is a date, the Friday instead of the 1st. Questions about the names?
Just variety is better, you know, like from
Yeah, I mean-
to business owners to,
Rob would have something to say about that too, but you know, I think it has to be good supporters of the school system. You don't want a negative Nancy on that list.
people in the past have kids come through.
It could be, business people, people with children in the district now have had, you know, you're going through that same process now for board members, appointing board members as well, so.
What about parents that decide to opt in? Like they're not in district, but they are choosing to opt in to bring their kid here. Is that,
Makes sense, I mean, to us at least, you want,
I mean, I get that
you want their
they're
support.
not in
If they're-
district, but
they're not in the district, maybe you find some good information from people that opt their kids in or out of the district that way as well, so, dual purpose.
Yeah, so parents, community members, community leaders, folks that have had students, you know, go through here in the past. Again, it's kind of looking at that demographic and saying we would like to even that out and who do we really, people of goodwill that we can gain some support for this next individual coming in. Yeah.
2 people for sure, and then list an alternate 2 and then give that to Jason. When you ask, we would prefer that you ask those people, and of course, after the meeting tonight, you'll have a better understanding of dates. So ask them, would you like to be on this group? Would you be able to come to these dates? And if the answer is no, then we might need to move on to a different alternate person. Other questions about the community members? You know, a community like this doesn't have a huge array of different businesses, but I think it's important to have, you know, some of your farmers on there, some of your business people on there, some people that have kids in school, some people that have had kids in school. Good cross-section, so. I think usually with board members submitting names, you do get a good cross-section, because then you're probably a good cross-section of your community as well. Questions? Well, at the end of the meeting, we'll talk again before that about dates and say, okay, here are the things you need to remember, and we'll send you a reminder. Ask them if they come to these dates, get the names by this date. We'll send out an invitation letter, and Rob and I will do the letter. So it'll be coming from Jason as a board president, but we'll put the letter together for you. Any other questions about community, business community? So that's your job. The second part of that is who do you want to have selecting your faculty staff group? Superintendent, principal, yourselves?
My question is, so you said 12 to 15 for that one. And since this position is specifically for one of the parts of elementary principal, what about all the teachers for elementary being included? Have you did that in the past? I mean, since it directly,
Not all the teachers,
affects
no, I
them.
think that's probably too many, and we've not even, we as consultants haven't really even talked to you about the position, how you want it advertised, whether you do want to advertise elementary. Makes a difference for some people in the room, I would think. So we're not sure what you want yet as a board.
Ideally, the best working number with the committee is 15 or so. We can have a few extra if you would like. And so maybe instead of 3 at-large members, maybe your focus is 6 elementary staff, and then 4 or 5 high school staff with 4 or so
right, but it's,
classified staff.
I mean, it's preschool, kindergarten, first, second, third. I mean, that would be your 6 if it was all the teachers. I'm just saying, you get what I'm saying, because 6th grade is considered.
But you still want a
I still think we need
representation
to
of
have
high
buy-in
school.
from the high school.
No, I'm not saying just elementary, I'm just saying all the teachers of elementary plus, because if there's 15, that would allow you to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
7 out of that.
7 out of 15.
Yeah, I'm just talking.
No, I just don't wanna like completely just
There have to be,
focus on one building.
there have to be some
Yeah, and
elementary
that's not
people
what I
that
meant by that.
don't want to be a part of the search too.
Right.
That's not me, I can't be there. What's that?
There might be some conflicts that day. for
There might be some
people.
conflicts,
Saturday,
there might be some people that say, that's not me, I don't want to be a part of that. Get someone that really,
What would be
Excited about that.
wrong with surveying the teachers who wanna be involved,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
you know? Cause I mean, some of them may not want,
Or might already know they can't.
exactly.
Yeah.
or have a conflict with dates and things, that, right? And this is, again, your decision.
Absolutely.
I would be curious to see which teachers would be available, and willing, more so than just kinda you, and you know?
And remember, it's also the classified staff, bus driver, cook, custodians, paras, and that number, total number. So, do we put that on our administrators
I would-
here, or
If
how do you
Brian
want
or
to?
Derek could put a Google form together and send to all the staff.
To see if
asking-
they're interested.
To see if they're interested, if they're available on the dates that we select towards the end of the meeting. And then I can compile another Google form to send to the board even to get those dates, or to get those people to send off to you when I'm doing the
Yeah, and
community
eventually,
members.
we'll have a spreadsheet, and if you're
Yep.
good at that's great, you know, with email addresses and.
If that works for everybody, I'm perfectly okay doing that. It's just,
I think that sounds like a great idea.
but I would really like to have more buy-in
Okay,
from the whole staff.
sounds good. We'll talk about dates a little bit later in this meeting.
Great,
So,
that's awesome, thank you.
yep. The next page in that group of pages are key questions. And I'm gonna go through this, Rob's gonna kind of take notes, and find the one that says key questions worksheet, for the Pawnee City Board. District contact. Who will be the district contact in the search? Usually the board president. I need name, number, email, all those things. Is Jason, are you taking responsibility for that as board president?
I would assume so.
But also Stephanie can help, right? I mean, be the go-to in the building person, sort of. So, convenient times to call? Is it 24/7? Can we just call you anytime?
Well, I prefer not in the middle of the night, however,
Yeah, okay, well, again, I would echo Rob's sentiment that this is your board members, your most important job, getting the leader for your district. And one of the two things that you really are solely responsible for. Now, your invitation to help get others involved is very good. I mean, you want buy-in, you want people to give you their opinion, but we will echo this over and over and over again. This is your job as board members, and you'll have maybe one new board member as well. So they'll start their job with the most important part of their job, picking that new leader, so. Okay, role, current superintendent. Do we have a role that we want your current superintendent to play in this process? He doesn't have to be at all.
I value Ryan's opinion. He's been on both sides. He's been a board member. He has been a superintendent. He kind of knows the ins and outs of the process, probably more so than any of our board members do. I would like to have him available.
He has a pretty unique perspective,
He is.
I'm sure, being a board member and then a superintendent. That's not very often that happens.
But yeah, I mean, I totally value his opinions. I mean, don't always agree with some things,
Okay,
for everything, but he'd be honest.
So here's some ideas. During the process then, he could be kind of the informal, take you around the school building, chat with you at the same time, get a good sense of the applicants and give you some of his input on that. Not necessarily doing a formal interview on his own, but if that's something you would prefer, that would be good. Any other ideas, Rob, on that?
That's completely up, to the board. Every district does that a little bit differently, so.
Maybe that's something we can discuss later too, him and the board member or something also, in case
Yeah,
there are questions.
Okay.
or even him and Derek.
I was leaning towards
Him
Derek
and
too,
Derek,
so.
too,
And of course, you won't offend me if you tell me
Okay.
you don't either. I understand, it's kind of one of those,
Yeah, and sometimes superintendents are not involved at all. Sometimes they're somewhat involved. Sometimes you wouldn't want the superintendent to be involved. It's a bad situation or it's bad marriage and that person's leaving on not so good terms. That's not the situation here, for what I understand at least. So, what about Mr. Nips, the principal? What is his role? Part of one of the groups or?
I honestly value his opinion too. I mean, these guys are in the district or in the school 24, not 24/7. Probably think like they are, probably feel like they are in there 24/7, but I mean, they, day in and day out, they're, with the staff, they're with the kids, they're involved in the community. I mean, I would value both of their opinions.
Okay. So I guess we can kind of figure that out. Derek, you're not a candidate for the superintendent position? Okay, so that's number 4. Do we have any other people that might be internal candidates? Any knowledge of that?
that's what I asked before too, and it doesn't sound like anybody's qualified.
That's on number 4 question, so.
I don't believe there's any internal candidates. If there is,
So we've already kind of assigned Stephanie number 3, the answer number 3 is you're kind of the internal person that we'll hopefully contact we need here. So advisory groups, we just kind of went over that. I don't know what you want your principal to do. We already talked about superintendent's role. The rest of the people on those committees, do you want students involved? Again, that's another optional part where they're sort of your best ambassadors for your school, I would think. So, do you want to discuss, or is that yes for everyone, that yes, you want your students to be involved in
I
some
think it'd be
way?
nice if they want to be, yeah.
I think it would be a valuable lesson for them to be a part of.
Okay,
How would you like to select those students?
How many are
Do
you
a lead.
discussing?
Depends on how many days, you have 1 day, 3 for a period and 3 for another period, or 1, if you have 4 candidates, 1 for each of the candidates.
Right.
Just welcome them and maybe help them get comfortable in their homeroom before they start the interview process. So, and it could be a group of students, whether it's student council or FAE, like you mentioned, or whatever is your best representation for students.
Just a couple of thoughts. One, being in different districts, seeing interviews or interviewing, it looks great for a school when they have kids there to greet someone. And we have to remember that a huge part of this is us selling our school to the person or people that we want. So having the kids involved is great. I think that we have some easy avenues for kid involvement, whether it's NHS or STUCO or leadership groups at various age levels. So from elementary to middle school to high school.
I would suggest Mr. Niss is in charge of that.
Taking some recommendations from Mr. Niss.
Yeah, if you have some recommendations, the rest of you, Mr. Niss. So, moving right along, we'll keep moving here. Number 6, would you prefer, did I miss one?
Community tour.
Community tour, I missed one already. Who would be appointed to be the person or persons to give community tours? I think, again, your soup and your principal can give the internal tours, but a community tour is usually best done by someone that knows your community really well. And have to be.
That all kind of depends on who would this be aside from the community, like, interview portion of it?
Yeah.
Is it separate, like somebody that's not involved with that?
Yep, it would be.
Okay.
The community group will be quite busy, but if you go with the community tour, this is a sort of a part of the rotation that we'll create throughout that day, so they'll be operating separately and independently. It's some time for them to meet with those candidates, but typically they don't report back to you officially.
Okay. I think it would be important to have somebody show from around town to see some of the things that we offer here. As to a person, I think once we fill our community.
No, reach out to like city council.
City council,
Someone that knows if there's any
Housing.
realtor, something like that, because that's pretty important for someone trying to be a part of your school and community.
Mayor involved.
So, I guess if you have suggestions for community members that might be good at that, send them to Jason, and if we don't hear back, we'll remind you that we need some people. Won't happen right away, but I was moving on to number 6, because this is the all important one. Would you prefer to have, typically we have 4 interview for the purpose of, if you have less than 4, you have to disclose all the names of people that applied for the job, even if they didn't get an interview. If you have 4 people that you select for interviews, you only need to publicize who those people are once they're selected for the interview process. So we recommend 4. And you can do that in one of 2 ways. We've typically done it most of the time because of just conflicts and things. We have a Saturday that we do all 4. Other groups have selected 2 evenings, 2 one evening, 2 the next evening. So discuss that. What would you prefer? My proposal was that if it was the 1 day.
How long are the interviews typically?
The interviews, if you have 4 different groups, 4 different candidates, they rotate through those groups, usually an hour 5, hour 10, plus a little bit of time in between. So you're talking, they're here all day, basically 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And there's a meal in the middle of it, and that's for the one day event. If indeed you go with evenings, then you start late afternoon, maybe with the tour, and then you have the same amount of same length of interviews, but you only have 2 groups flip-flop on the one timeline and 2 groups flip-flop on the other. So,
I'm flexible, I can make either one, so it doesn't make me any difference.
I'm the same way.
I can be available whenever, so.
How do your calendars look on that Saturday? I don't have your activity calendar. I just want to make sure with March 1st, we're not selecting a district or some type of activity on
High
that.
school basketball.
I will. I don't know that I have our news.
There's a speech contest that day too.
I had the activity calendar out, I thought it looked clear. Menu, where is it at on your site again? I had it open. Athletics, maybe,
Should just be under events.
events, under the first page.
Yeah, you'll have to go to the menu and then events. It should be across
What is
the,
that?
Up at the top menu.
This isn't the right school now. There's the site. I don't know how I got that other site.
I guess I think it depends on the days. For me,
I was
and,
gonna
and work and whatnot, but I also see the benefits of both. I mean, you cram in 4 interviews in one day,
I haven't got the calendar, but
I don't know, I could see,
It's a lot, but.
it is a lot, but yeah,
It's
if
nice
it's,
to only have one day or 2 for people.
yeah,
For all the committees that are sitting.
events maybe.
And sometimes by the 4th.
Yeah, there it is.
you're done.
right,
You might not be.
So we're looking at March.
March 1 was the Saturday.
or think, oh, did this person say this, or was this number 2, or,
What have we did in the past?
The last one
Gonna say.
with Brian, I was on the community, and it was one day that we
I
did
was
it.
gonna say both times that I was on the community one. That was all day.
I was leaning toward that anyway, just to knock it out, especially with all
Just
the
to get-
people involved, rather than trying to schedule that many people to do multiple days, so. But again, it doesn't make any difference for me.
I guess if I were to give my opinion that it's better because of the numbers, like you said, the sheer number involved, how can they it's hard to get one night open, let alone 2 during that time of year. I'm looking now, basketball, might be district basketball on the 3rd and 4th. It could be on the 1st as well, but,
Typically that'll be in the evening though, wouldn't it, Derek?
I was just looking up to see what we had posted, but typically.
What time would this end then?
What the end say.
but
We did it on a
for all those
Saturday.
people, probably about 3 o'clock, for all the people except for a board. Yours will go longer and deliberating and selecting. So, leaning toward one day.
I would personally, but
I'm flexible, but that, I would prefer going the one day.
That's fine with me.
Okay, we'll send something out to everybody, but we'll talk about what else is a conflict, anything else coming up. So, because we have some other dates that are conflict too. So, contract items, a review of your contract probably should be done at some point with your school attorney and see what in the contract should be changed from what Brian has, what works for everybody. And then Rob is going to work on sending away a array of schools that might be comparable size to see where you are in that array of salary and benefits. So you can make a educated decision about how much to offer a new superintendent. The other thing to consider to look at the length of the contract. Typically, we recommend at least 2 years. Someone coming to your district to pledge 2 years to them for sure. Sometimes it has been 3 in the past, but a single year contract just really for
what was yours, Brian?
It's 2.
2 years. And then the other part of that is moving expenses. That's an incentive to get that person here, whether you want to pay some of the moving expenses, all the moving expenses. Might be shocked if you said to pay for all the moving expenses. When I moved from Fairbury to Lincoln, I just checked to see what it would cost, $8,000 for that trip, and I decided that my back was still good enough that I could probably make
Get
several
some friends.
trips. Yeah, get some friends and some kids, my own children to help. So, but sometimes you give them a limit of like $2,000 of moving expenses to give an incentive. And another thing people have done is incentivize living in the district. We can talk about that as well. I don't know if there is enough housing, but some people incentivize living in the district by paying for some of the housing or having the salary higher if you live in the district. So all things to think about. So number 8 coincides with that decision too. Will your superintendent be required to live in the district?
I think that would be preferred,
Okay,
personally.
Yeah, I agree.
preferred, not necessarily required. That's
Depending on the candidate, you know.
that's the other part with the incentivizing it too, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
I would agree. I would prefer if they live in the district. But
If they can get
Depending
close
if
because of housing, I
Or,
would
you
go
know.
for that.
Depending on housing, depending on how many children they might
family
have.
situation,
Depending on
you
the
know?
situation
Yeah.
and the person too, I
Yeah.
suppose too, so if that same,
Things to think about. You don't have to make a decision tonight on that one yet, but that's something to think about.
So when we talked about initial screening questions, if we use the words preferred, that's okay with you then to kind of gauge each of those candidates? Thank you.
it's not a deal breaker, but.
Yeah. Well, again, the questions that we send out are simple things like, do you have a degree? Can you get a degree by July 1, provisional, whatever? That's not funny sometimes.
No.
You might have to scratch and claw and find someone, but that's another question we often ask. The board would prefer that you live in the district. How do you feel about that? And then what other things would you bring to the district? You know, a lot of times people say, you know, I have got kids myself, I want them to go to this district, or other things about I can't at this point, but I would guarantee that I'm gonna move after a year, or if you incentivize it, that's one thing. So all those things are things to think about before you make final decisions. Anything else about the?
Well, we'll help you along the way, because in subsequent meetings, we will give you some thoughts on contract analysis, although I always have to say, Fred and I are not qualified to offer or provide legal advice. We're told we're supposed to remind you of
We
that,
can
but
say we did sleep in a
have some
Holiday Inn,
opinions.
but that doesn't
Yeah.
qualify us to.
But we will, as a service, provide you with our thoughts on contract analysis. We will also provide you with an array, and we'll ask important questions. Do you have a superintendent array now? And we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. So, we're not just leaving these items. We're gonna bring some information back.
Would you start thinking or start the conversation? So, number 9, this is similar to what you did on the profile questions. We'll go over the profile question a little bit, but what are some of the most important things that the person that's going to be your superintendent might need to be aware of or perform in order to be successful in your community? Examples: financial management, community relations, facilities management. Is there a burning issue right now in Pawnee City?
I would say facility management is gonna be a big one as far as upkeep and maintenance.
Okay.
We've got old facilities and they need a lot of tender loving care.
As do many schools right now. Yeah,
I think the candidate needs to be an effective communicator and relationship builder.
okay. And we'll go more in depth on that profile in a little bit. So any really tough things that they're gonna have to inherit when they get here. Everything's been perfect. Good job, Brian.
We are a small town, small rural community too, so it would have to be a fit that direction as well,
Okay.
you know.
Just a good fit,
With the
right.
community, yeah, so it's a very small town here.
I
So-
would point out, we did just approve a strategic plan too that has 5 action statements, action plans in it that was kind of built from the whole community, so.
Good.
That might be a good place to turn as well.
That'll be
It's now
good.
linked on our website.
That will be a good thing to put on the profile final sheet that we send out to advertise. Advertisement vacancy will have, maybe that would be one of the 3 things that we'd list as your strength. So. I'm gonna kind of skip over these next ones because I think we're gonna cover it more, but are there any other unique circumstances about the job? Now, part of it that Rob and I have had discussions on advertising for the position. That's something we need to discuss about whether you advertise only for superintendent or you advertise superintendent, K-5, K-6 principal, how you want that advertised. The more open-ended, the more people might apply, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Rob? We had that discussion with the last district that and we said, hey, if that person comes with secondary experience, they're gonna throw them out because it's not gonna fit. If that person comes with special ed experience, you're gonna throw them out. Is that something really needed? So there's a lot of different hats superintendent has to wear, so, and it makes a difference for the current principal too. So have you decided that how advertising for a position?
I would just point out that as you're considering this, that currently Mr. Ness is certified only at the secondary level. That's, I think, problem. So I didn't think to say that at the last meeting. It was in my brain. You know, it was always pretty well understood that I was going to be the elementary principal here, so that wasn't a concern, of course, when he applied for the position, because it was advertised as only secondary. So I do see some issues would have to be worked around, particularly with teacher evaluation for certification that wasn't applicable to him. You know, with the principal evaluating the staff that at a grade level that he's not certified at, that would be, I don't know, that'd be a little bit of a challenging situation, I would think.
And typical superintendent certificate can do.
Correct.
I think by nature, the superintendent, just you become.
You can do the elementary.
You have the
issue
qualifications,
is, yeah, the
you get
issue
the
is, of
letters.
course, if this person is coming to you and has only secondary experience, all of their teaching and can they be an effective elementary principal / superintendent? So do you want it to be advertised elementary principal / superintendent? That may eliminate some people that might apply otherwise. So that may be something we need to finish the discussion tonight if we need to start to advertise.
Right.
And yes, the conversation that obviously we'll be certain that these individuals are certified for a superintendent position. Some, as you know, if they're coming into a situation where they are not yet certified, but they can't do that piece until they actually have a contract. But nonetheless, that's coming. So they would be certified to be the elementary principal. I think the key question for you is how do you want that to look when that word goes out? You know,
Out of your pool of people historically, you know, advertising that way, is it a strong pool if you do both, you know, a principal and superintendent, or is it drastically drop
The numbers,
The number of people that will be,
the number of people applying for superintendent jobs altogether right now aren't huge. That's changed over the last 10 years. The first search I did was like 12 years ago, and it was little Dorchester, Nebraska, had 38 applicants. I think the most we had for a pretty large district last year was 17. So you're not getting the numbers anymore. I think it might discourage a couple of people that would apply for a superintendent position if you listed the elementary with it, but they've got to understand that too, once they apply, like, okay, I wonder if this is just a superintendent, and, you know, they ask that question, might be part of our, screening questions that when we ask, live in the district, get a certificate, would you be willing to be, once they apply, we give these questions to them, so you have that information.
I personally would lean that way, doing a superintendent slash, pre-K principal. I think that would be, otherwise you're looking at two positions then, correct? The way you would have to advertise it.
Well, my opinion would be if you do advertise elementary, pre-K through whatever, and superintendent, that might eliminate somebody that would apply first and ask questions about.
Later,
Ask questions that we would
just
ask
leave it
them.
out.
We would ask them questions about, are you interested in this? What background do you have? Would you be willing to be the elementary?
If you guys would do the sorting.
Yeah, and if we get a definite no, then obviously that would go to you, and you would say, we're not gonna interview that person then.
I'm okay with that.
I was just looking for how we worded that with Lawrence.
Yeah, and we did Lawrence Nelson, and they had some ideas on this, and one of the people that applied and interviewed had a special education background, and that would have been a good match. They ended up not selecting that person, but don't know what your person in your district does, but that's a huge job as well.
I see that, but then I don't know, I also wonder too, if you just say it's just superintendent and then they apply and say, oh, well, we didn't realize you weren't being completely forthright about what this job entails. You know what I mean? That might turn somebody off too, that maybe would. I would wanna know what I'm getting at.
Again, we would, if they ask a question, we answer the question. We don't try to hide it,
Yeah,
but,
I think what they're saying is they're just getting more people and they'll do the sorting and.
yeah, and you know what? If they want a superintendent job and they're not, do not come with the background in elementary, you would have to be the judge on whether they would be a good fit, and sometimes they are. I mean, I was a K-12 certified music teacher, but I never taught elementary music. So, I mean, you could ask that question as part of our screening questions. If we have 7 applicants and 5 of them say, yes, I could do that, and 2 say no, you eliminate those 2 right away.
So there's no legality about not disclosing it to principal?
I don't think we're trying to hide it. We're just trying to get more people to, because they will have to make that decision. I've got all secondary background, but
Right.
it sounds like, you know, I know Mr. Niss is there, I'm gonna probably have to do the elementary if I apply for this position.
Part of me thinks it was a little shady, like not disclosing it right away.
That's my thought too, but.
How soon after they apply do they get the screening questions? Is it immediate?
Their application materials go through our office in Lincoln, and then when those are complete, those are sent to Fred and I. And then within just a day, I send out the initial screening questions. So for example, that question for the previous district was, the board is considering the option of the superintendent position being combined with either principal duties for pre-K-12 or possibly serve as director. These were just examples. The board would like you to comment about your expertise and willingness to serve as both superintendent and one of those additional positions.
I don't think that sounds shady.
We definitely are not trying to deceive anybody. If
No,
you feel
no,
like
no,
that.
right.
That's just what I worried, because that would be a turnoff to me if I was going into something thinking that I was searching for X and then you give me XYZ on top of it. It just kind of seems,
It also opens the pool though, if we don't list that, like you were saying, we get more people into it and maybe it would have been a turnoff and then maybe, you know, that person ends up able to do it and wouldn't have applied but did and, you know.
I mean, I totally
likes the
get it.
school and, you know,
I get it.
It ends up being a fit, you know, type of things.
I completely understand it. I just, something in my gut just says that it's,
totally up to you. I think a person that's applying for Pawnee City would understand it's a smaller district. I'm probably gonna have to do more than that and more than just being the superintendent. And would understand and know that right off the bat from what we've dealt with in other smaller districts, but it's up to you.
When it's advertised, like, what would it say potentially? Like, would it just say, apply for Pawnee City Superintendent here, or is there kind of a
Like on
brief job?
like on third page after the one you're on, just an
Yeah.
example, and it wouldn't have to be in paper, could be digital that way as well. Superintendent of Pawnee School to apply by, whatever. Go to the NERC Superintendent Search Service site and apply, you know.
Brian, when you applied, what was the position listed in there?
I really don't remember. I think it was advertised as both, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I had inside information, so I knew what I was getting into. I was a high school principal and I was a high school teacher. I never dealt with little people before working here. I like them way more. It just took me a few years.
Right.
So it's up to you, if you wanna advertise only, superintendent /
I'd rather list both, but how do you, I know Marky wants to do superintendent, I get, but what do you and Bobby, what do you guys want to do? And Jason?
I am all about getting more applicants, but I also like seeing this just right here. I don't know, like, I do think that's deceiving because it just has superintendent listed. And maybe you get somebody, you know, maybe it's their first application to be a superintendent and they're like, I wanna go in and I just want to be a superintendent. They apply, yes, they're still getting experience, whatever, but they go into it and then find out that it's way more than just a superintendent. I mean, Brian said last meeting, on a typical day, he's 70% principal and 30% superintendent, and that would be a lot for somebody who thinks that they're just going in to be a superintendent.
Well, they wouldn't go into that, they would get the.
By the time, yes,
background,
but-
They would get, but it's entirely up to you, if you wanna be upfront and you think that's more of an honest approach to it, then that's what we'll do, we'll advertise both.
We can do both. I just think we're overthinking it a little bit too much probably.
I honestly am fine either way. I can see it both ways.
I do see it both ways. I just step back and I think, okay, what does that person think that, you know, does that involve, or does that change their way of thinking about our district if we were like, okay, we're advertising for a superintendent and then they get into the interview process or the, you know, and then, oh, by the way.
It's before the
This too.
interview process though, right?
Yeah,
It's when-
it's before you bring the
So at that
final,
point,
after
they
the
could
phone
say-
calls,
Thanks,
after
dude.
the everything, they would know long before that, but again, I
At
totally
that
under-
point, they could say.
totally understand where you're coming from, and you need to make that decision probably tonight, so that we can start to advertise. So, no pressure,
I guess my question is, you know, would you hire somebody that said, no, I'm not going to do that? Because if your answer to that is that that's not our top priority, we need somebody that can do, then I would advertise it as both. You know, if you're set on it, it is going to be both. If you're open to other options, then I would say your vacancy as a superintendent, that might include that. And we'll find out if they're willing or not.
Would we have the possibility to have other options?
Do we have the possibility? Is that what you're asking?
Yes,
You're asking
do we
me?
have the I don't know, maybe I need to ask somebody else.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, is that something that we need to discuss tonight, or is that something that we,
Whether it's one position or two positions that we're going for, is that what you're asking?
know whether we hire one position but delegate other duties to other?
Well, evidently, Mr. Nis is only at high school. So that is a difference in,
Right.
they made some decision based on that person that they had, we can assign them to elementary because they're certified, even though they've not been in the elementary position as a principal. So that was open them up for more. If you want to advertise elementary principal / superintendent, do it by all means. That's the only option. And if by the chance that you don't get enough quality candidates, then you have to go back and think about it and see what other options we have after that.
My fear with that is if that's the case though, then that puts us out that much further.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this used to be early, right?
Yeah, it used to be.
It's getting to a point where March 1st is kind of a deadline date for us, and we're like, probably ought to pick somebody by about that time.
Want paper, scissors? Just vote or what? Let's,
Personally, I'm on the fence, like,
Do we need to vote to decide how to do it? Do we want to come back to it at the end? Or do we want to do it now?
they just knock it out now and
I'm not going to be offended either way. I mean, it's,
I can go either way too.
yeah, so.
I lean towards more, but.
I'm at the point where I'm like, be upfront and tell them at the beginning what they're getting into, because eventually, after that screening questionnaire, they're gonna find out. So that's where I'm at. But we can vote, and if you guys wanna do it with just superintendent, I'm okay with that too.
I agree, I see both sides.
okay. Knowing that they're not getting to the actual interview portion, they'll know before that, I'm fine with just going with just the superintendent myself. But knowing that will be presented to them, that this is a, part of it.
I would rather say both, so I'm gonna be on the say no to that. But if you four want the superintendent, then that's fine.
I just say if we have it listed as just superintendent, like, that's one thing we come out of the gate with is,
How often, when you have done it that way for schools that do have additional, how often does that?
Who knows if they're additional or not. I guess we're not familiar with your staff either. Sometimes the board might not even know. There might be somebody certified on your staff that can do elementary principal. Are you aware, or no one? Usually in some districts it surprises you, like someone's got their administrative degree and they could be interested in doing a part-time job as principal. I don't know.
I think the problem there though is I think financially, we don't think we can afford
Pay for the
that.
two separate. Right, I guess, I mean, I'm assuming we don't have the funds to pay for 3 administration positions.
Well, like, it'd be about 3 to 4 cents on the levy is what it calculates out to with our valuation. So that you would just probably have to go into it knowing that that's an expense that the next superintendent would have to build into the budget that's going to drive up the levy. As I shared a little with Mark because he was inquiring and I just kind of probably gave him a lot more information than he wanted, but it just, you know, as you know, most of you have been through the budget process with me, is been really trying to avoid having to do the pink postcard bill as long as possible. Now, I will say that the new property, the new grain elevator going in north of town in 2 years, when that, we're gonna get should get a lot of real value growth out of that, but we won't see that most likely for at least 2 more years. I guess where I'm going with that is, at some point, you're gonna have to do the pink postcard hearing. It just isn't, unless there's a huge influx of state aid, we're gonna be about revenue neutral this year, based on my projection. The revenue is gonna equal expenditures, but, you know, it's gonna continue to go up. So it's probably gonna have to happen anyway on that. So that there's cushion in the levy. Well, you know, there's so many, when you have a small valuation, you're kind of dependent on state aid. There are a lot. I just want to be completely honest. It's something that I'm always a little anxious about because there's a little bit of change can have an exasperated impact on the levy because one penny generates only $39,000. And so increase it a little, your state aid goes down a little bit. To recoup that, you really gotta bump up the levy. Now we have good cushion in general fund. Like I was telling Mark, I kind of went about 7 years of revenue budgeting where I knew I was going to take in a little more than what we spent until we was able to get that cushion up. So we started this school with money in the bank and money at the county treasurer. It was about 2.3 million out of a $5.7 million budget. So that's decent, but it was under $1 million not too many years ago. And so we got it built up. You kind of want to use that only for a rainy day when you have to make a big expenditure.
Can't find that AOV.
Yeah, we're okay with either one. We'll still try to recruit hard and find enough people to apply, no matter what.
What's your vote? Superintendent or both? Hope, what's yours?
I would say superintendent.
Jason? Same?
Done.
Same here.
That's
Bobby?
fine, I mean, that's fine. It's maybe push through, so.
So the answer was superintendent, and
Superintendent.
then the questions,
With the
and
questions.
get back to you with that as soon as we can. Let's move on around and do the,
I was looking for that AOV and I can't find it, so.
I can,
It's okay. Please go ahead.
well, I'm gonna do the typing this time, and you're gonna do the
So we're
profile,
going to
their
take a
assignment.
look at the data, profile data.
Yeah, the assignment that you had, I think I sent everyone, including the potential board members, an assignment of that. So if you want to include their input, that's great. Rob?
Yeah, so let's start with the board members here, and then if you wanted to include prospective board members, you
Absolutely.
can tell me, so we'll include you all in this as well, so, okay. So, thank you. So, Jason, we'll start with you, because the first question is, list the greatest strengths or positive qualities of your school district. As we go around, please pick just your top. Your top one, and then we'll come back around and circle back to anything that we might have missed.
All right, well, at my top, I have that we have great teachers, staff, and administration. And
Super. That's awesome. Okay, Hannah, your top one.
Mine was that we have teachers that are willing to do a lot of extracurriculars, anything academic for the success of our school. So I think we should pride ourselves on that.
Take on a lot of roles and responsibilities. All right, thank you. Let's see, Mark.
I think we have a great community too. Participates with our school district and our schools and with the kids and, yeah. You guys both had good students.
Very good. Bobby.
Community of generations. You see a lot of
Yeah, that's good.
third, fourth generation. I mean, people seem to tend to come back here. I mean, I didn't graduate here, but I'm from the area, and there's just a lot of generations that come back and keep coming back. And I think that says a lot about this community and, you know, the school.
Sure. Our kids coming back more as well.
I don't think more, no, but
It's solid.
I think there's not as much job opportunity,
right,
unfortunately, since we're so small.
yeah. But you still, I mean, yeah, to point out.
there's quite a few of us.
Right.
But yeah, but even like Julia Smith, we put in her, you know, she's raised here, went off to college, came back raising a family here. You know, there's a handful that generation.
Yeah,
It's-
I was born and raised here and left and then had kids that brought them back here
Right.
Ditto.
to be in this community. The same virtues and values of this small town.
Sure. Awesome. Hope.
Mine kind of goes along with the teachers, except for I'd say that our staff as a whole connects well with our kids, and they have good relationships with them.
Very good. Julie, do you have any thoughts?
My top one kind of echoes what everyone said, is a strong, supportive, and involved staff faculty in the community. It's a big thing, especially in this rural area. I feel like there's more.
Very good. All right. JW.
I have to agree with staff. I think it's your most valuable product that we have here at Pawnee. A lot of our staff is actually graduates from the school, and so that shows a lot of our school that they want to come back and further that knowledge into more kids.
Very good. Brady?
My top one was community support. We kind of got a good, goes back with third and fourth generation coming back, but they all kind of get behind the school, I would say, and show their support, whether that's good or bad sometimes, but they at least show they care somewhat. Absolutely.
Very good. Okay. So lots of community support. Okay, let's open up the floor. What did we miss? Give us another idea, Hannah.
I don't think it's just, I mean, it's the whole staff, like, we have a lot of dedicated bus drivers, paras, and I mean, not just like teachers and stuff, yeah. I don't know.
Jason?
Another one that I have is that, you know, we do have a strategic plan now that's a very huge asset to us.
Very good. Have more too. Hope?
All of mine have pretty much been hit by others.
Okay. All right. Bobby?
I said grounded. I think, you know, sometimes we don't have the biggest investing, but I feel like the staff works hard with what they have to make the best out of the situation and for the kids. I feel like, yeah, they work hard for the sake of working hard and not for the medal, the award. So,
Okay, very good. Mark?
I got nothing.
Okay,
Pretty much covered.
that's all right. Well, we get to that point. So Julie, any other thoughts?
It kind of ties into like the big parts of the staff in the rural community in general, just smaller kind of numbers, but the ability to have like personalized learning and capabilities of like individualized attention and innovative solutions, even though it's sometimes necessity.
Yeah, sure.
Ability to maybe like
All right. JW,
I don't have
anything to add? Brady?
The one that they covered is for being a small school and community, we have, I think, great resources beyond for high school to go continue their education. With the stuff that Lisa puts together and talking with Derek some, I think there's good opportunities there that a lot of smaller schools don't really offer or have.
Okay, awesome. Very good. Have we left anything out? Jason, did you have anything?
Actually, I have 4 more.
Well, let's do it.
I do. Okay, we have a great staff development schedule, I think. Between Brian and Derek bringing in things, I mean, there's lots of opportunities for our teachers and our staff to continue. I think we have a great student leadership program, which also, makes them active in the community. That is really great. And then we also go in with Brady, what Brady was saying about helping our graduates. And we have a great education foundation that supports the teachers, the staff, and the graduating classes that come out of Pawnee City.
Is there a name to the student leadership program?
Student leadership team.
Very good. And you say your foundation is
The
strong.
education foundation.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Anything that we might have missed on that greatest strengths? If not, did I miss?
No, those are all good.
Okay, then the other question is, what critical issues will you be facing as a district in the next few years? Mark, can we start with you?
Sure.
Give me your top critical issue.
The shrinking, the number of students in the city itself has been on a decline for a long time. So it's something that we're trying as a community to build new homes around here. There's some programs that we have going right now we're trying to get 25 new houses built to bring in families, maybe 50 more students. It's a two-kid household, basically. I think that's, as a community shrinks, the school shrinks, the funding shrinks drastically, I believe. So, just getting, trying to get the community to grow instead of go the other direction would be something in the near future we face anyway.
Very good, thank you. Bobby?
The upkeep and replacements of some outdated and equipment that needs replaced, we're kind of going ahead with the HVAC or the system in the high school, talking about what we need to do for the gym, the elementary building. I think there's things in our near future that are gonna be costly and we're gonna have to fix. And that's gonna be hard because our budget isn't overflowing. So,
You have one, Jim? One, okay, I've been in there, but I couldn't remember if there was another set or not. Hope?
Declining state aid. We rely a lot on state aid for funding. We don't have the huge land base that a lot of the districts around us have, so.
Yes. Jason?
Teacher shortages.
That speaks for itself, absolutely. Hannah?
They got all 3 of mine, but the filling teacher positions, I think, is a big one. I don't know that a lot of people are going into teaching. And at our school, our teachers don't just have one hat usually. They're filling multiple hats, so then that's even harder to fill because when somebody quits, it's not just in the classroom, which is big, but it's the extra stuff they do.
More on that, recruitment more of an issue, retention more of an issue, or just both?
I can't speak to that completely, but I would say,
I feel like our retention is good
Retention's
once we
pretty-
get them here.
Is good.
Yeah.
I tend to think so too. I mean, we've had some years where we've had turnover, but I really feel like compared to a lot of our neighbors, we keep our teachers pretty good. I mean, I think they feel valued and respected. Just getting them, how do we outrun Lewiston and JCC and Johnson Brock and Humboldt? How do we prove to them that we're the better district? We had I had that conversation just today when we were going over the strategic plan, because that's goal number one. It may be goal number two, but I think it's goal number one is attract and retain quality staff. So it's something our community recognizes important.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Julie?
My top point was teacher recruitment and retention, just no fault on the school, it's on the school community, relocation.
Okay, very good. Jay Desmond?
Well, I pretty much did everything I had wrote down, but I just thought on enrollment for school. That's something that we need to address and try to figure out how to get more kids to come to our school. Make us look better than everywhere else, like Brian said, so.
Basically, all mine were hit throughout the room, but one, I know it was an issue in the past, I don't know if it has been recently, but I can see it coming up again in the future is consolidating. We're losing students to neighboring schools, whether that keeps going up or down, or we grow, hopefully we just grow and don't ever have to worry about it, but being small communities so close around, I can see it coming up in the future as an issue. Good or bad, whichever way it goes, deal with it when it comes, but.
Very good. Is your option a plus or a minus, Brian?
Oh, we're plus 71.
Very good.
We're about 67, I think, is where we're sitting right now. So we get a lot, probably over half of the old Table Rock senior kids come here. So, yeah, we're pretty, of course, our district ends 3 miles. So part of that is geography, but part of it is those kids those families have made a conscientious decision to choose us over their resident district. So that, I think that speaks, because none of our all of our neighbors are in that negative, with the exception of Johnson Rock. So we are taking them from this, so to speak.
Gotcha. No, that's a good position to be in then. Other critical issues, have we missed anything?
I feel like our IEP has grown a lot over the years, and it's just difficult to find support and staff for that. So it kind of goes along with the shortages.
Yep. Good.
another one would be what we're here for tonight, finding a new leader. It's pretty critical of when the staff likes and can lead us in the future for Pine City Schools.
True.
Also, places, with somebody coming in, we're talking about being in district, and having a place for them to live, if they have kids, a home around here, for them to even be. That's same with, new families that wanna move from the bigger city out here or something. There's not much places for them to go to be here, or teachers, you have the greatest teacher, but they live in Tecumseh or somewhere else. It's not ideal drive,
No. So housing shortage is real.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big issue, so.
I don't think it's an issue, but I think it's critical that we continue to maintain a relationship with our teachers to where they feel supported. And very important that as a board, we listen to their needs and kind of base our decisions off of what's best for not only them, but for the students and the community, but letting them have a voice in most of our decisions.
Good. Other thoughts on critical issues? Have we missed anything?
I have a couple, but I kind of went a little broader, I guess. But not necessarily specific to our district, but like ongoing mental and emotional health, I think is really important broadly, but more specifically for like rural areas with limited access, like direct and specialized support, as well as addressing like learning disruption losses from the recent pandemic that might be real and coming up.
Good ideas, good thoughts. Other critical issues? Okay, if not, list the most important qualities, characteristics, or skills you believe the next superintendent should possess. Hope, can we start with you on that one?
I feel like they need to be organized and manage their time well.
Good. Hannah?
The same, also, I think we have a really good curriculum development that's been started, so superintendent that will continue to do that.
Mark?
I think, what Brian actually does for the budget-wise and the accounting side of it, and the hats he wears there, I think he does a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
I think somebody better be well-versed in that portion of the position as well.
Good.
Dedicated, not just to the job, but hopefully to the school, the community. You know, take this responsibility and kind of run with it and be proud of the job that they have, the community that they're a part of.
Good. Jason?
Well, I had already alluded to before, effective communication and a relationship builder. Very important to build that relationship.
Absolutely. Rudy?
I had to keep the family feeling in the school and with staff and, you know, still related back to your small town school, your community. That goes kind of with living in the district as you want them to, with their family, put their roots down, you know, be involved in the community. Be vocal, be out there, kind of thing. Don't treat it just like a job. Treat it like a, you know, part of the community and all that.
Good.
Yeah, I kinda going off what Brady said, you know, if you want somebody that wants to stay here and be here and try to further the school, you're not gonna want somebody that's just gonna come in just to make the name for themselves. They just want the title for a little while and then go on to something else. Do you want somebody that's gonna be dedicated to the school?
Very good.
Echoing that a little bit, my top one was willingness to participate and willingness to continue learning.
Okay. Willingness to participate and willingness to continue learning. Good. Other thoughts on some key qualities, characteristics? Jason, do you have another?
I have, yes, visionary thinker, problem solver. I think we have an opportunity to continue to grow our school and make it bigger and better than what we already have. But having that visionary, you know, seeing the big picture versus this is just a small step that we need to, small hurdle that we need to jump to get to the bigger and better thing.
Good.
They had approachable, but yet stands firm with their standards and holding people accountable.
Good.
Be able to think outside the box too. We have very limited resources that we deal with, you know, being landlocked and being creative ways to make improvements, you know, being able to look for different types of money through the state and stuff, what's available and stuff like that. You know,
Sure.
just being creative with what we're given.
Having high expectations, not just for themselves, but for their staff, the community, and holding, kind of like what Hope said, holding them accountable.
I didn't quite hear what you said, sorry.
Or like having high expectations
Expectations.
of themselves and staff, the school.
Believe it or not, I don't have anything else to say.
I'm good.
You're
I think
good?
we fit a lot.
Julie?
Special education, some of them can handle, because we have so many kids in our district that have that need. Either a 504 plan or whatever, I mean, anything along them lines. somebody that can be able to come in and handle that really well. Ryan does an excellent job with all that.
Good.
So it's gonna be a hard shoot.
So continue that.
Yep.
Good.
So I was gonna say too, that if they're elementary principals, be able to handle little people, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Special ed director here or at
We
ESU?
use ESU, so it was Ellen, and now it's Wendy Craig.
Very good, thank you.
I forgot one.
I know, I knew this was coming.
I always say it, ability to walk on water and do whatever else is necessary,
can be in
right?
10 places at the same time.
Right.
Yes, of course.
Okay, now I took notes, and some are good, some are not so good, but in the advertisement of vacancy, we try to list 3 or 4 really good things your district does and should be known for that would attract someone, and then 2, 3 critical issues. And so I'm gonna read you the strengths, and we have to pick out 3 or 4 top of the list. Great teachers, staff, administration. Teachers who are willing to do a lot of extra things for the success of our school. Great community that participates in our school with kids. Community who come back generations upon generations, who keep coming back. Great staff of the whole who connect well with kids and relate well. Strong, supportive staff, many who have graduated from our school. Community support, they get behind the school, show they care. Dedicated, other staff, non-certified, in other words, staff who care, bus drivers, cooks, custodians, etc. We have a great strategic plan. Our staff work hard for kids, rural community with smaller school with personalization, personalized attention, and innovative solutions. Great resources, continue their education. Great staff development schedule, great student leadership team, helping our graduates, great education foundation, teachers feel valued and respected, the plus option enrollment of 75 or so kids. So which 3, 4 of those are, and we need to kind of wordsmith it so that when people look at that and say, wow, that's.
As an outside firm, what do you have any opinions on the stuff that we suggested? Is anything like, since you're not a part of this community and stuff, what is,
Well,
what sounds
There's
appealing and?
definitely a theme for you about great staff. I mean, so something to do with great staff. Probably a superintendent candidate would say, wow, they got a strategic plan. So that's probably a real positive that could be listed. So other than that, you could pick community support, you could pick something to do with great kids. What do you think, Rob?
Well, we heard the theme is it was an excellent staff, that's for sure.
That seems pretty appealing for incoming superintendent too, that there's no staff, that's not a major issue, It's nice coming into a new position when everything is running smoothly already, and just don't mess it up type of.
I just, wordsmith it, excellent staff who work hard and care about kids. What do you want to change about that? Let me know. I'm willing to make any adjustments. I'm just.
Say that again, Fred?
I said excellent staff who work hard and care about kids. That's kind of a theme that I heard, that they'll go above and beyond and do whatever it takes. Something about the community, something about the strategic plan.
Community as well. I heard strong community support, is that fair?
Strong community support. Anything else you want to? That's enough. How do you want to list the strategic plan? Or do you want to list?
Yeah, I think you should. I think that's a valuable, to anybody coming, if I was coming into the position, that would be nice to know that labor is already kind of done and there is some kind of a plan,
Can we say recently adopted strategic plan?
I think that would be.
definitely.
Well, Brian, what do you think? What's your opinion? If you were looking for this position or applying for it as a current superintendent?
Well, I feel like we have some pretty good processes in place. You kind of want to know that you can come in and on day one, things will.
The systems and processes are all in place already?
Can I say policy along with that, Brian? Systems, policy, and processes are established?
We're about all the policy. I suppose we could just really bump it up these last few months and try to get through all of the policy reviews before now and the time I leave, but we're nearly done reviewing all policies in the last.
Right. Are you a KSB or a?
KSB.
KSB, thank you.
Okay, I have excellent staff who work hard and care about kids. Strong community support. You may want to develop that a little bit more. Recently adopted strategic plan. Good systems, policies, and processes are in place.
I use excellent. I say excellent systems, policies.
Excellent, I'll use excellent. Excellent systems,
I'm cheating, I'm just filling it out.
policies, and processes, or how do you want to list that?
I'll send it to you.
Those good? Let's go on to the other part that's.
Key issues?
Key issues, or what critical issues, I'll read them and then you can tell me what 2 or 3 maybe strike you. Number of shrinking students in community, number of people, shrinking funds because of losing kid numbers. Upkeep and replacement of buildings, HVAC systems, etc. Declining state aid, teacher shortages, and then it says filling teacher positions as they have multiple hats. Recruitment is harder than the retention part, so you could decide on that. Enrollment for our school, how to get more students to come. We're losing students to neighboring schools. Well, obviously you're not losing as many as IEPs, growing a lot, special education, difficult to find support and staff for those roles. Finding a new leader. Having a place for our students, administrators to live. Housing shortage is real. Maintain good relationship with teachers and give them support, what is best for our students, and letting them have a voice. Mental and emotional health of our students. Did I cover all of those, and which ones are the most critical that we would like to list for someone that's looking at your district?
I think the financial aspect.
Decreased state.
Yeah. You know, state aid and.
Maybe it's more of a fixed budget. I don't know if that's the terminology.
Yeah. Something umbrella, you know.
So how would we list that? I mean, give me some wording about something about the budget.
Fixed budget.
Fixed budget is the.
More, I don't know if that's the terminology you want to use or not.
I'm asking if a superintendent candidate is looking at this, what does fixed budget mean to
As opposed to limited.
limited funds? Something to do with shortages or recruitment and retention.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that we have limited funds. I just think we have to operate on a little tighter budget than maybe our neighbors. You know, we've never had to turn, we never have, when it's the best things for kids, we always get it. We just maybe don't have the Cadillac. We just have the sedan. I came from campus. That's limited budget. You know, this isn't that bad.
Any suggestions?
So it's really a changing state aid picture, right?
Yes.
That you're.
That's probably true, yes.
The changing
Depending on
state aid,
aid,
school
right.
finance.
The better way to say it is we've historically been dependent on state aid. I think an applicant would kind of read between the lines there.
Yeah.
Recruitment and retention of staff. Is that one that's high?
Recruitment,
Because you list teacher shortages, filling positions, couple, three different things.
I would say that's,
Quiet, what's that?
yes, I would say that one is a,
Recruitment and retention, piece, okay? Something about budget. We operate on a tight budget, with the uncertainty of state aid, future state aid, I don't know.
Strategic budgeting, say something about balancing the budget, this is a priority.
I don't know if we're supposed to talk now. But sitting on a few words.
Any other number one on the top of your list, anybody?
So what did you list, sorry, so far?
All I listed was something to do with recruitment and retention of staff. So something about budget, probably should be listed, and then one other one. Shrinking funds, tight budget, what wording do you have, Mr. Wordsmither?
I'm leaning, typing as we speak, changing state aid and school finance, leading to fiscal restraints.
I like that. One more?
And then I have, continue to recruit and retain high-quality staff.
That's one we sort of have already. You have to have another one, so.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
So you've got something about recruitment and retention, you got something about changing state aid and tight budgets and, you don't have to have any more.
Well, you had, facilities was a recurring theme, facilities maintenance, right?
yeah, but I didn't know if that kind of tied in with our financial.
Well, the finance piece does relate to that, but it's a pretty big factor for a lot of schools right now, that how we're ever gonna get a different building or get an addition to a building, because it's hard to do that with the vote, so.
Because you have like continued management and upkeep of facilities or continued upkeep, I don't know.
I don't want it to sound like limited.
that we're falling apart.
Facility maintenance is upgrade.
The facilities we have are in pretty good shape, it's just that we're kind of, there's a big wish list, you know, like we don't have air conditioning in our gym. And the one big issue is our VRF system in the high school, which was only 10 years old, is gonna need to be replaced. It's way ahead of schedule, and that's going to suck a lot of set aside cash. And so if we wanna do any of those other things on the wish list, it's gonna require a little bit of financing to do it.
So can I say facilities maintenance and upgrades? Because you're talking about, those things are moving at the same time, right? And then, I need one more, Fred, if possible.
Well, you had facilities, you had something to do with budget, and then, continue to recruit and, retain quality staff.
That's three, you want, is three fine?
Three is fine. So you only have 3 problems.
That's fine with me.
That's great, you have more positive things than problems, no, not an issue. We need to move on.
There was one more though.
Try to.
Can I go back?
Go ahead, go back.
I heard from several places, continuing to meet a diverse set of student needs, because we talked about 504s, we talked about IEPs, and we talked about mental health. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That'd be good for.
Just increasing student needs.
And
Okay,
to meet increasing student need.
after Rob and I look at that, and we're just gonna make sure it all fits in the little boxes, so for our advertisement of vacancy, we'll send it to your board, have a look at it, see what you think. If it's a go, then we'll start to advertise later in the week using that document. So that document is in your information, I believe, somewhere. Looks like this, with all the little boxes, tells about your strengths, your key issues, tells about who's on the board, what your budget is, your general fund levy, et cetera. So that goes out to all advertisements. Then once we start to get other applicants, we give them this and other information about the district while we ask those questions. Take a look at the timeline. We're trying to get to a point here. This thing, we're at the 20th today. Tomorrow night, whenever we get this done, we'll send it to Jeff, our person that sends out the advertisements. You have to make a decision about where you want it advertised. We send it to the free ones, of course, state where teachers' jobs are advertised things. It used to be that the only place you had to send it for sure was the Omaha World Herald in the print edition. Very few people read the print edition of the World Herald anymore, but we still feel like you probably should advertise it in the World Herald digital part, because that's where most people look. That next page about getting the word out, all those places we send out, or I also send a personal email to anybody that's been through a program, anybody that's not got a superintendent job, or even if they have a superintendent job, we send that to all the presidents, the board, all the current superintendents, so it's advertised that way. Would you want to print it in the paper, any hard copy paper, World Herald, or is that something you don't care or think you need to do? It's been more trending, like, why give a little bit more money to the World Herald when more people read online than look for a job anymore?
The problem with print is, as you all know, a number of years ago, they just stopped getting it out, to any place beyond a certain line of demarcation, like it goes to Lincoln and that's about it. So most of our schools have chosen to go with that advanced online option. That's the $485 piece. You get just a little bit more than you get with the $335 piece, and that's been our most popular. That price could change because it's a moving target, but probably that's about where it would be. And so along with that, you get that Omaha World Herald Jobs.com, and that includes their services with their online job boards and the Twitter and things like that. The nice thing about using Omaha is it is widely read across the state, but it also hits a particular target audience in some of those areas like Omaha and Lincoln, where there are building administrators that sometimes have an interest in getting back to communities like this.
And because you're close to Kansas, we will find a place in Kansas to advertise, also with their organization. We have good relationship with their school boards organization, with their small schools organization. We can send it to them and see if there's somebody across the border who would like to come, like your current superintendent did, right? So do we need to vote on that, or is that just something given a direction that just the advance for 485?
I'm good with
Is that all right?
Do we need to have a vote? No, I mean, as long as there's a consensus, it'll be on claims.
I think it's probably the best option for you. We'll go ahead and start that when we get the advertisement of vacancy ready. Now, let's talk dates. We're ready to talk a little bit about the dates. If you look on first week or so, it's just advertising. And then after that time, if you look at the date of February 13, I'm proposing that once we get the committees' names, that the board will meet if possible, early. And then the community would meet after their jobs in the community are done at 6:30. And then I'm saying the staff would meet last because the staff that you select have duties that day. And one of those duties are the parent-teacher conferences. So I'm proposing to make your day even longer than this. If you're interested in being on those groups, because the timeline is getting really short, and part of it is just fitting everything in the calendar. So,
What would be done at that one?
we do what we did with this group, with those groups, as far as the strengths of the district, developing a profile by those other two groups. And then we start talking about the process itself, how we're advertising, what we're trying to do to attract people. And we talk about, from the very start, what their role is in this process. And you've given them a role of advising you, but not making any kind of decisions. And we have to start that process of getting everyone comfortable with that, we want your input, we want your opinion, but you don't make the decision. You will get to interview, and here are the dates of the interview. Can you be there for that date, that Saturday? Prior to that Saturday, we'll have one more meeting with each committee and talk about questions. They'll select questions just like you will select questions, and we'll make copies of those and have them ready for you on interview day. So, and we don't need to go through everything tonight, but in that packet that you have are tentative ways you can do the interview process with, there's one for Saturday only, and then there's the color-coded things for a 2-night one as well. But if you selected the Saturday, that gives you an idea what the schedule might look like on the one that's in your packet. So it would begin at like at 9 o'clock. The 4 groups would be principal/interview, school tour by superintendent, and maybe community tour is part of that as well. So that's an hour and 5 minutes. It's not a huge amount of time, but part of it's taking a tour of the building, part of it's sending them off on a tour of the community, doing kind of an informal talk to by the superintendent and principal. The other part is the Board of Education interview, community group interview, and the faculty staff interview. So you just rotate through that 4 groups. At the end of the day, we select, or the groups select, leaders who would come back to the board with their report. And they report on not, I want this person, or this person's number 1, this person's number 2. They give their strengths on each candidate they've heard through the interview process. They give typical concerns that they might have heard, and then they give what kind of leadership qualities did you hear this person has. So they're leaders of those community groups, the faculty staff groups, come in to present that to the board. And they give you what they heard during the interview process. And then that's from 3:20 on until the board starts deliberations. And I just gave some preliminary possible timelines. So the second meeting of that community group and faculty staff would be the same evening, which I'm proposing the 25th of February, where you would make your finalist selection. Now that is toward the beginning of the week that you will be doing the interview. So what we do is Rob always sends the candidates who have applied information about, if you're selected, keep this date open so that you can come for the interview. So from the 25th through the 1st, we're preparing those documents, making sure everything is ready, and then those 4 people show up to interview on Saturday the 1st. So I will send all the board members the dates and what your responsibility is as far as selecting community members and what dates the community members have to be available. And then you can start asking them and turn them in by the end of next week. Questions from anybody? A lot of information went from one night, and you did some really good work trying to figure out what exactly you're looking for in a superintendent. What are some strengths? What are some areas that might be a critical issue for you, for your board?
I have a question. So on, like, with these tentative dates, let's say you don't come to a conclusion of the best fit for your place. Is that ever, like, it's extended out further where you can have it like, interview additional people later if we wouldn't come on? Like, let's say we really didn't come up with somebody that would be a good fit here.
So if you don't get 3 or 4 decent candidates that you think would be a good fit, then you could reopen the search, which I don't think Rob and I typically would encourage that. You'd have to be really fail to get enough good candidates. But that has happened before.
Just
Not to our groups, but we've been lucky so far, but there's been a couple of groups out west especially, there's not a whole lot of candidates where they said, oh, we have 2 people that applied or 4 people that applied. That's not good. Even for our first search at Lawrence Nelson, which is a district that was unified before it split apart, Lawrence Nelson is pretty small too, and they had 9, I believe. Not a huge group, but I think they got a really good candidate out of it.
And before you get to the process of considering reopening the search, where it says that Friday, that February 21st deadline, we have had some instances in the past where Fred and I have visited with you and said, listen, can we extend that 3 or 4 days? And when we do that, and that word goes back out to all of those contacts that we've said, that's a pretty good indicator to them that somebody that might have been on the fence saying, listen, I think I'll apply because apparently they don't have the pool that they want. So we have picked up, 2 to 3 or so applicants. So that's the first thing that we would try.
And worst case scenario, you don't find someone that's a good match. I know another organization that often says, well, let's go with an interim for 1 year. That's really tough too. There's no guarantee that next year you're gonna get better and more candidates, and interim sometimes can do a great job for you. But maybe it was just we've been lucky to have at least 1 or 2 really good candidates in every search, and we feel good about the districts, and the warranty is always going to be in place. We haven't had to ever use a warranty because hopefully you pick the right person, that we help you in the transition process, and everything's great. Nobody can guarantee who's going to be out there looking at this point. Our organization only has 2 searches going on right now, but I think school boards has 4 or 5. Mac and Jake might have 1 or 2. So I mean, there's a number of schools looking for superintendent, and it's all Brian's fault. What else can you say? If you would have said no, I'm going to stay, then you had that problem. But
What time are you thinking on the 13th then for the meeting?
5:30. Would that work for you, to do
I will maybe be a little bit late.
Okay.
I have to work that day and we don't typically get off until.
What time do you normally meet as a board?
6.
6 o'clock? So, I mean, we could say 6 and move other groups back more.
That would put the teachers here later.
I was gonna say 5:30 is fine, as long as you guys just know I could potentially be a little bit late.
Okay.
That was anything for you, Hannah and Bobby?
I'm good.
I don't think I would.
I was gonna say neither one of you are on there.
Schedule, yeah, pretty available.
I work that night, but, let me talk to some people.
You know, with the staff too, that second night of spring parent teacher conferences, I think we could almost move them up
and block, like especially in the elementary, we can block out those times from the teachers. It's the time they're gonna be here anyway.
Okay,
And then we'll just
I
tell
would be
parents,
willing to go late.
yeah, and then get them in, get them out by 7:30, and then maybe let the board go.
Okay.
If that's.
so why don't you send me or tell me
I was gonna say,
when we
I'd be
can
fine
schedule
with
teachers,
flip-flopping
that would help
if
us.
Long days.
Yeah,
Community members have to get on with their jobs anyway,
Right.
so that could be afterwards, but if you could block
I
out,
think we can make it work.
if you could block out teachers on that, part of that night, that would be great.
Perfect.
probably if you can't switch, is there another day that works for you?
That week, any day but the 14th, which obviously,
There's already a vet.
yeah.
Let's go on the 14th. I don't know if that would be a good idea or not.
So the 13th and 14th are the only ones, but I can talk to some people at work and see if I can't change it. I can try to do that tomorrow.
Well, let us know if those don't work, we have to make some arrangements, because, I'm somewhere until the 13th, middle of the day, I'm out of state, so. Rob, you'd have to do it alone.
Fine. Been there, done that. It'll work. It'll work.
Questions? Get you some things returned back to you tomorrow, about the advertisement of vacancy. Do we have to go through this yet with
Yes,
board?
it is.
Yeah.
And remind them of that legal issue.
Yeah, the legal issue memo, basically, I would like you to read that for the next time. And it basically talks about open meetings, talks about how, we are lawyers. The one, who do you have a lawyer? Do you have KSB? KSB, we can communicate with them about what's required, and their opinion is still, like ours, that everything needs to be done in open session. So when you talk about candidates, when we bring the candidate names to you, if it's an open session and there are other people in the room, like, looks like we might have other people in the room, we would use candidate A, candidate B, candidate C, and talk in summary about what we've heard from all of our many phone calls and research. But you would have to then keep kind of that private and then go to executive or closed session where we talk negative things about those candidates. And KSB has said we could go into executive session, closed session, and talk about all the negative things so we don't single anybody out. But once you come out of that, you would have to again start talking about candidate A, I'd like to see that one, then discuss and then vote. And once you vote on who you would like to interview, then those names that the 4 finalists would become public knowledge. So it's a little bit tricky, but we firmly believe that everything needs to be done in open session. That's what our lawyers have told us. Now, if you talk to Lincoln Public Schools, I don't know what they do, but they seem to have other rules sometimes. And Rob's got one more thing.
We do. If you could look in your packet, there is a comparable schools list that we will work to develop, in addition to contract analysis. We're going to work to provide you with an array of comparable schools, because part of the process will be developing along the lines of the contract and the potential salary, prepping you for making that contract offer. So as you look at that comparable list, and I think Brian shook his head when I asked if you have an array that you're currently using. So if there's anybody on there that you're currently using, then that's a no-brainer. Otherwise, we typically we suggest 5 schools smaller than you and 5 schools larger than you, so that we have a 10-school array. So with that being said, are there some strong feelings either way? Let's start off with the schools that are larger than you. Is there anybody in there that's on your current array or that you feel strongly about?
Brian, you looking for the
Brian, you had a list. You already done.
Well, I've done it just for our teacher. It's just our 8 schools and our teacher.
Okay.
I'm gonna send the spreadsheet to you, but I can print copies if you like.
On our list, you just wanna tell Rob who you've had
Oh, sure.
forward?
So currently, boy, we just dropped Tri-County. Johnson Brock's in our array, Southern's in our array, HTRS is in our array, Diller Odell.
Slow down a little bit. Johnson County,
Southern, you said?
Southern,
Is JCC in our array?
Johnson Brock.
Johnson Brock.
JCC's
Johnson,
on
not
the
Johnson
list.
County.
They are.
Yes, I brought it
Good
with me.
job.
Because I thought that might be something.
Is
we
Freeman
talked
on
about.
there too?
We have HTRS, Sterling, Lewiston, Freeman, Southern, Johnson Brock, Diller Odell, and JCC.
We dropped
You said-
Elmira because they've gotten too big, right?
Well, yeah, it's continuing.
We
Freeman,
dropped-
you said?
Yeah.
I believe so.
There's missing one, like,
Okay, Rob has Freeman, Johnson County Central, Southern, Johnson Brock, HCRS. Is there anybody else bigger that you have on that? Okay, and then on the smaller list, go through those again. They are
Diller Odell,
Diller Odell,
Sterling, and Lewiston.
Sterling, and Lewiston. Would you like to pick a couple more to make it 5 and 5, or? And the distance sometimes makes a difference, if you draw the circle, and sometimes not. Anybody else close? No?
Not really, they're all about 100 miles.
Mm-hmm. The distance is, Deschler is south central Nebraska, you know, they're close to the Kansas border. Dorchester is in a kind of a different area.
Yeah. The only other one that's within 75 miles is Meridian, maybe?
Are you okay with Meridian?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fine.
And then we would just need one more.
And none of them are any closer than 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah.
Deschler?
By distance, be Dorchester.
Dorchester's the next
Dorchester?
closest.
Okay, got it.
Well, we'll share those. We have a person that does that for our group. So we'll share that array with you the next time. And any other questions for tonight? Kept you longer than we thought. Appreciate your hard work and appreciate everybody else coming. Well, you're working on it.
I will find out tonight, but tomorrow. The 13th. I will be there.
Sounds good. Is that all you got? Okay. Before we adjourn, I want to thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you guys coming, potential board members, faculty and staff. I really do appreciate seeing you guys here. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by Bobby. Bobby,
Yes.
Hope,
Yes.
Mark. Yes. Jason, yes. Hannah.
Yes.
We are adjourned.